This is your weekly moment of growth. A topic that's been coming up a lot lately is the language and the way in which we speak to ourselves and the questions that we ask ourselves when we approach certain things in our life. And so I kind of wanted to address that because I posted on Instagram just the other day about, how when I changed my language and how I decided that I am worthy of somebody's time and I don't need everybody's attention, that's when everything kind of started to shift. And I started to say, if we can control some of the negative questions that we ask ourselves, maybe that will change everything that we do. And so in this week's moment of growth, I wanted to dive into some common questions we ask ourselves and how we can kind of reframe those thoughts, not avoid them, just reframe them so they work to our benefit. One question that I know I used to ask myself a lot, and I know a lot of people ask themselves, is how can I get people to like me more? And, when we're kids, we kind of change our thought process and we're like, oh, I'm going to adopt that sport or that band that they like, or you get involved with things that they're doing good or bad so that they like you. The problem is when you go down that road, you become somebody that you're not, right? And we do this as adults too. Say you're not a podcast listener, but you're trying to get into a group of people that are podcast listeners and you say, oh yeah, I love podcasts. And now all of a sudden you framed yourself as a fraud. So that's something that obviously isn't serving you whatsoever. So one way to reframe that is you can ask yourself, what interests can I pick up in order to attract the people that I need in my life? And so instead of even asking the question, how do I get this group to like me? Start asking yourself, how do I get the right group to like me? So how do I engage in interests that they're interested in? For instance, when I wanted to surround myself with more successful entrepreneurs, I started to adopt some of the things that they did, and I tried to figure out if it was right for me. So the interests of reading or working out or whatever the case may be, I started to get into those interests so I can join the conversation, and then that way the right crowd likes me. Now, when you're diving into something new and something large, you start to ask yourself, what if I fail? What if I fall on my face and people make fun of me? And then what that ends up doing is that it literally paralyzes you. The fear paralyzes you from stepping up and doing the thing that you should do. So I would first ask myself, does that make you a failure? If I mess up 10, 15, 100 times on the way to my goal, does that actually make me a legit failure? I would say no. So to reframe the question is, what does failure mean really? Is it a bad thing? Did I learn from it? Did I fail forward? So instead of saying, what if I fail? What if it's too hard? Ask yourself, what is failure really? And then find the positives in it if you don't reach the goal that you wanted to reach when you set out to do it. Another question that I know I used to ask myself all the time is, when will I succeed? When will I become that success? We all have those goals, whether they're small ones like lose 5, 10, 15 pounds, learn how to play the guitar, build a business, whatever the case may be. We worry so often about the end goal. We worry about those 15, 20 pounds. We worry about playing like Van Halen. We do all those things. So instead, we should ask ourselves, what can I do right now to get me closer to that goal quicker? Right? So if you are trying to lose weight, what can you do right now? Is it a quick workout? Is it a quick walk around the block? If you are trying to learn the guitar, is it an extra 20 minutes you can fit in right now to get a little bit better? And so when we focus on the incremental wins, the big goal doesn't really matter as much. And I talk about that all the time, when I talk about living in growth and happiness. I know another thing that I used to ask myself is, what if I can't meet everybody's expectations? I worried so much about what their internal dialogue was that I would make up their internal dialogue for them. And I felt like they were all ridiculing me. And I had to try so hard to meet their expectations. But the better way to reframe that is, what behavior should I expect from myself? What expectations do I have for myself? Because that's all that matters. All that matters is how you feel about yourself and what expectations you have set out for yourself. Hold yourself accountable, but at the same time, love yourself. So focus on your own expectations instead of the expectations of others. And the last one that I wanted to hit on is something that comes up pretty often on this podcast, whether it's in an interview or I think once or twice in these solo episodes, is when we start to victim stance and we ask ourselves, why me? Why am I in this situation? And look, there's certain things we can't control. So there's two ways you can kind of reframe this question. If it's something you can't control, you can ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this scenario? What am I supposed to learn from this death, this heartbreak, this quote unquote failure. So start to reframe it and try to find the positives within the negatives. Or if it's something where you have control over it, ask yourself, what can I do right now to get myself out of this situation? What actions can I take to make it better, right? If you've gained some weight, what actions can you take right now to lose a little bit of weight? If you've hurt a loved one, what actions can you take right now to begin to repair that relationship? And so when you reframe these questions, it gives you back the power that you need to create the life that you really want. What are some of the questions that you ask yourself that hold you back? What are the things you're saying to yourself right now with internal dialogue? Because there's many more beyond the 4 or 5 that I shared today. So what are the things you are saying to yourself that you need to stop and reframe right now? Follow me on Instagram at GNM Podcast. Shoot me a message. I'd like to hear how you're reframing your self-talk and your inner dialogue to help you reach the next level. I want to thank you guys for spending the last couple of minutes with me. I'll see you next week.